This week's question comes from Russ Diamond-Webb. Morning, coaches. I'm planning on going big and booking MIUT Madeira 115k next year. I've spoken with some people that have done it before, and the biggest thing they said they were underprepared for was the toll of the downhills on their legs, as there are approximately 25,000 feet of climbs and descents. Aside from the obvious of big days out in the mountains, is there any specific home/gym exercises you would recommend to help supplement that? I know for the climbs there is the good old Stair Master, but there isn't an equivalent I can think of for the downs. Thanks. Russ Diamond-Webb. Yeah, that's similar to Paddy Buckley, Bob Graham round, 20,000 feet, about whatever that is, about 100k. And I mentioned before we started recording, I wonder what the nature of the trails are. Don't really know much about this race, but yeah, if those are runnable descents, if you've got 25,000 feet of actual runnable downs, then that is going to smash you up big time. Okay, from one Russ to another. Russell, what do you reckon?
Hi, Russ. Yes, so where do you live? Do you live like in a really, really flat area? Can you find any hills at all? Because you're not going to want to hear this answer, but everything else you do, Trish and Eddie might be kind to you, but it's going to be a complete waste of your time. It's like 180 steps a minute that we run. And if you're running for like an hour downhill, I just did the quick maths, it's like 10,000 steps. You're not going to get that in a gym. You just can't replicate that eccentric load. You can do depth jumps and jump off a box and do some pistol squats and all this nonsense. And you're going to trash your legs when you get to Madeira. And all of that is going to feel like a complete waste of time. You need to get on some downhills and you need to run down them. I would do it at least once every 2 weeks to really start to hypertrophy those thigh muscles. They're just breaking for a long time. It's a lot of work, and you're not going to find a gym exercise that's going to replicate that. Unless you fully commit to that, I would just pull out of the race and wait till next year when hopefully you have more time in your diary. You need to get on downhills and you need to run down them. It sounds like I'm being mean, but I'm being kind here because this is the only way you're going to save your legs on the day.
I suppose it depends on his aspirations. If he's not really...
No, sorry.
Rusty's got big aspirations.
No, it doesn't. If you want to finish it, if that's your aspiration, you still need to start running some downhills.
I wonder if a workout, though, I'm doing these currently, I actually don't really do them because
it's not about you, Gary. You can't get free coaching advice for your downhills.
This is actually Gary. She's used a different name.
Guys, that's not the answer that Russ is looking for. Let's go on another tactic.
But I do these workouts where it's like 800 meters uphill and I have a little jog and then I run down the hill 800 meters. And I kind of neglecting that because I don't think I really need it for the races I've entered into. But maybe that's something that Russ could look at if
you don't need it for Manchester Marathon, no. But you do need it for Madeira Trail. Yeah.
Russ, take on board what Coach Russ said, definitely. But I do think the gym work will help with the downhill to give you the strength in order to run the downhills. If you go with your puny little thigh muscles and just run down hills, that is going to really hurt. If you go with strong muscles that have worked in the gym, the downhill is still going to hurt, but you're going to be so much stronger and you're going to be able to absorb that impact. Coach Russ suggested a few things that you can do in the gym. And I would say one of the biggest things that will help you is if you have done some gym work and you've got some good base, I take it that you have, let's say that you have, is by doing some heavy lifting into plyometrics. That is scientifically proven to be one of the best way to get that elasticity that you need for the downhills. We were just talking about this race before, Gary might have popped it in or not, that Robin Cassidy and Simon both went over, and they are accomplished mountain runners, and they were both absolutely smashed on the downhill. And probably there were two reasons for this. One is that it's really early on in the season, and so in the winter it's obviously harder to get to big mountains safely to be able to do that sort of running downhill. If you are running downhill, the downhill might be like super wet, really tricky to actually get speed on. And the other thing is that the downhill, a lot of it is on steps, and so you have to really think about how you replicate replicate. Very different to running on a lovely fire track downhill to running down steps, because you're absorbing a different impact, and every step that you take, it's not a natural running stance. You're dropping that hip down lower as well. So I do think that you can replicate that in gym. You can do, I would add steps, running down steps into my program when I got to the specificity of the race about 6 weeks before. Probably every week it would be a specific running up and down steps to get the neuromuscular junctions in the body as well working, so that as well your brain doesn't get as tired as you're trying to do the fast feet down the steps as well. So I would work on that as well for that race. But I do think that you can set the base, build a really strong legs and core in the gym, and then do as Coach Russ said, and take it out and practice those long downhills, but make it specific, because it is, I think it's the steps that crucify everybody in that race, both the ups and the downs. Don't be put off doing it, but just be prepared as well that I think it's going to hurt, like it's going to hurt, and be prepared for that pain of that race. But you, Diamond-Webb, what a surname. He sounds like he can take the pain.
I never even thought of the mental load. All of that, just concentration for all of that time.
Yeah, cognitive load. Yeah,
that's because I'm a woman. You don't think about that sort of stuff, Gary. You just.
It's super hard to be specific, though, wasn't it? Because as much as box jumps are great, you just can't be. You
needed just some stairs, some multi-story.
Coming down Snowdon, which is now called Ritva, on the Chamberis path, it's got a lot of steps, and it's about 1,000. Meters.
That's where you're going to go and move your whole family there, Russ.
Come visit me.
Go and live with Coach Russ.
What about you, Trish?
I know. I think, Russ, you're going to have the best day ever, mate. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, you're going to suffer a lot. It's going to be horrific. You're going to feel like death, and it's going to be spectacular. Yeah, I'm just super excited for you. I totally want to do this race because it sounds savage. It sounds absolutely savage. That's why we want to do it, right? So yeah, it's going to be absolutely miserable, but you'll do it. It'll be fine. Just keep moving forward. The bottom line is it's 100% going to really, really hurt. So it's just about trying to mitigate that as much as possible. The thing with downhill training is you don't have to, you've got to be, I'll just chuck in, you do have to be careful with downhill training. You can't just quickly go and smash out a load of downhill training. So, because it increases your risk of injury substantially to go and smash out a ton of downhill training. And actually, you don't need to do a huge amount, like Eddie said, in terms of the adaptations and, getting the neuromuscular system firing, etc. So the adaptations for downhill running, it's not quite the same as uphill running. You don't have to do as much. So if you are doing that, just be aware of that. You don't need to smash your legs on the downhill multiple times. You will get an injury if you do that. But yeah, you want a ton of vert in your training, and you definitely want to be getting on that stepper and doing as much as you can. In terms of what the other guys have said in terms of the plyometrics as well, and yeah, big strong legs. So you want to be lifting heavy for sure to mitigate it as much as possible. Bottom line, yeah, it's going to be super emotional, but you will have the best time. You'll have a great story for generations to come, and they'll tell tales about you. Do it.
What about a training camp though? Sorry, if Russ might be living in London, for example, but he can't afford a weekend away, 3 days, 4 days away somewhere before the race, would there be a time that you go, okay, maybe 4 weeks before the race?
This is you, isn't it? You wrote this question.
Yeah.
Is there any value of that?
I'd say 3 weeks. If you can only do it once, then it's probably going to slightly mitigate the terrible effects. I don't know, Eddie, what would you say? 4 weeks?
Yeah, I'd probably be safe and probably go 4 weeks to give yourself enough time to compensate and finish on a high. I always think if you go 3 weeks for a training camp, that your last memories of training are probably a bit emotional. So I always like, if you 4 weeks, you can still do it. Training again afterwards and start to feel good again before the race. Can I just say I love the characters that we create of these people that send in these questions, and Russ might not be the person that we imagine him to be at all, but
you mean Gary?
Gary Diamond-Webb.
Russ, we actually need a picture of you just to prove you exist now.
Yeah, can you send us the picture? Russ, let us know your thoughts, and let us know when you do the race. We're looking forward to the finish line picture on Facebook.
Definitely want a picture.
Yeah.
Definitely want a pic.
Good luck, Russ.